Should Texas be worried? Quinn Ewers was benched momentarily against Georgia. Now, Georgia has, shocker, one of the premier defenses in all of college football. So not playing your best game against Georgia, I don't know how much of an indictment that is on a quarterback. Though for a guy like Quinn Ewers, who has NFL aspirations, who is a top 5 quarterback prospect in the country, it's not a great look. Now, conversely, if you're worried about Quinn Ewers, you'd have to also be worried about Carson Beck. Did you know that he threw 3 interceptions and was under 200 yards passing on Saturday? Yeah, that's a real thing that happened. And by the way, go back to the first half against Alabama. Carson Beck was not any good. And I've been a big Carson Beck fan. He's a big reason that I picked Georgia to win the national championship before the season, because you got a veteran quarterback. You've got a productive quarterback and a guy who I think has got tons of potential, but he has not quite looked right. He is not gelling with those weapons. So if you're worried about Texas, you should be worried about Georgia. That said, I don't think Texas has a problem here. I thought Joel Klatt made a really good point that the taking out of Quinn Ewers in that game was less about we think Arch is better, because, Arch missed a couple throws. One in particular had a guy wide open underneath. The receiver's like, oh, why didn't you give me the ball? He wanted to take the downfield shot. He wanted to make the explosion play. I think he was trying to get Quinn Ewers a reset. By the way, it worked. Quinn Ewers returns to the game and ends up throwing a couple of touchdowns. Now, his numbers are not blowing anybody away, and he's got to clean up the turnovers where he just stares a guy down. But I think for Texas going into this week's game against Vanderbilt, which I'll get to in just a moment, I don't think you have a quarterback debate here. I don't think it's, well, should Arch Manning play shit? No. The answer is no. I know that Arch Manning had some great games against competition Texas was clearly better than. Tell me, when he went into the game for Quinn Ewers, did you notice a sizable jump? Yeah, he's put into a tough spot. But when a guy replaces someone who had been named the starter, and then he ends up just staying there, you tend to see that click a little bit. I didn't see a click with Arch Manning. One game, not a huge sample size against legitimate competition. I don't think Texas should be out on Quinn Ewers. This is a guy who in the same system won a conference championship a year ago, was in the college football playoff semifinal, and can still lead Texas back there again this season. You just have to clean a couple of those things up. And look, there are veteran quarterbacks not playing well in the SEC. Quinn Ewers has not been playing well. Carson Beck, not playing well. Jalen Milroe can't take care of the football at the moment. Are you just going to punt on him? Are you just going to pull him, say, they're no good, we can't? I don't think that's the best path forward. I think you have to work through the difficulties they're undergoing right now, and you got to find a way through it, because they still are giving you the best chance to win, even if they're not playing well. Because I've seen the potential. It's not like these guys have never played well in big games. Jalen Milroe, SEC championship. Carson Beck, we've seen it time and again. Not, necessarily in a national championship setting just yet, but that's why he came back. I've got faith that Carson Beck can indeed figure it out. I've seen Quinn Ewers do it too. So, no, I'm not on the let's play Arch Manning. Let's make him the start. I think Steve Sarkisian wanted to get Quinn Ewers a break, get him a reset, and it worked. And now you carry that forward going into a game against Vanderbilt. I hope, for Texas's sake, they're not overlooking Vanderbilt. Did you know that Vanderbilt is ranked in the top 25? It's wonderful. It really is. I don't know how you can be a college football fan of literally any team and not think Vanderbilt being ranked is one of the best stories of the year. I don't care if it lasts. I don't care if they miss a bowl game, even though they're 5-2 at the moment after not overly impressing against Ball State. But you've got a top 25 showdown in Nashville this week. Yeah, that's right. Top 25 showdown. You've got Texas and you've got Vanderbilt. Good old Vanderbilt. Clark Lee and company, Diego Pavia, they're just rolling. They're just rolling by Vandy standards, of course. They still have a loss to Georgia State on the resume, but Texas is favored by about 18.5 points. 18.5 points. That's a lot. How many do you think Alabama was favored by? It started with a 2, and that's all that matters. So don't tell me that Vanderbilt can't pull another upset here, because they have already won as a 22-point underdog and as a 14.5-point underdog. And that second game at Kentucky was on the road. So Vegas, look, the AP voters are giving Vandy their due respect. Vegas is not. Texas better have things figured out. They better get Quinn Ewers settled back in because Vanderbilt is a solid football team. I'm not saying they're great, but you can't tell me they're bad. I've watched them play well. Remember what one of their 2 losses was? They went to Columbia, Missouri, and took the Tigers to overtime. College kickers were absolutely off their rockers in that one. If they hadn't been, Vanderbilt could have won the game. Vanderbilt could be a 6-1 football team right now. It's entirely possible. Shout out to Clark Lee. Shout out to Jordan Rogers as well. He's got to be happy, and he should be. He really should be, and so should Clark Lee. They could become bowl eligible if they beat Texas this week. I don't think they're going to, but don't tell me it can't happen. Don't tell me, well, they could, that they won't do it again. I don't know. If you said that about them doing it once, why couldn't it happen again? Texas is trying to sort things out, and Quinn Ewers doesn't look like himself just yet, but Steve Sarkisian needs to look at this game not just as an opportunity to win a football game, avoid another conference loss, avoid an upset, and keep control of your own destiny to make the playoff. You got to use it as an opportunity to get Quinn Ewers back on the train tracks because he's off the rails, relatively speaking, right now. So, speaking of Texas and Georgia, the officiating nonsense that led to the right call was indeed nonsensically bad. Horrific precedent set by the SEC officiating crew. Absolutely, positively unacceptable. It is unacceptable that you can make 2 mistakes in one sequence. Mistake number 1, that's not pass interference. It's not. It's not even close. Flag never should have been thrown. Kirby can say whatever he wants. Deep down, he's got to know that's not pass interference. You see it, I see it, fans see it, broadcasters see it, everybody saw it. Bad call. When you make a bad call and the fans are mad and they start throwing a fit and toss stuff on the field, and you use that as an opportunity to change the call, what are you thinking? Are you thinking? Reminds me of a scene from That 70s Show where Eric and Hyde have done something stupid. That's a recurring theme. And Kitty goes over to them and says, "Boys, what were you thinking?" And then Hyde looks at her and goes, I got it, Miss Foreman. We weren't thinking. That's what the SEC officiating crew is doing. You thought through the process. You thought it was a good idea to reverse a call that can't be reversed. If you have a discussion in real time, you can say there is no flag for pass interference, first down Texas. You can do that. You don't do it after the replay's been shown, after objects have been thrown on the field. I mean, complete buffoonery of the highest order that this was allowed to transpire. And I will reiterate once again, I am in support of officials being held publicly accountable. How do we not have the head of that officiating crew coming to a podium after the game in which a lot of people have a lot riding on the line, and that could have proven to be an impactful call in the game? It was an impactful call in the game. And by the way, the end result was correct. The end result, Texas got the ball. That's what should have happened. That process, horrifically managed. There's no public accountability here. Well, they have internal processes. It's going great. It's going great. And I get so annoyed anytime I hear someone say that. Well, they're graded. Well, they get judged. They do this. Well, it's not working. I don't care what your process is. It's not working in any way, shape, or form. Completely unacceptable. But they made 2 wrongs to make a right. Because flags never should have been thrown, but it gets thrown. They overturn it. 2 wrongs make a right? I guess. Yeah, I just complete insanity there. By the way, Texas A&M plays LSU this week. You know who's the biggest Texas A&M fan in the world? Notre Dame. A lot of wins in college football don't look quite as strong over time. How much better does that Notre Dame win look at Texas A&M if they beat LSU this week and remain unbeaten in SEC play? You might have written off Mike Elko and the Aggies. I didn't. I kept watching them going, good football team. Look, good football team again. And they keep doing that, and it's going to be a really fun game. So Notre Dame has got a watchful eye on the SEC to make sure their win cancels out their loss against Northern Illinois, who are losing games. in Mid-American Conference play. Yeah, that's the thing that's happening too. College football's wild, isn't it? But boy, is it fun.